This episode of About That is brought to you by Castillo de Montijo Enterprises. Read more about this family in The House on Calle Sombra, brought to you by Penguin Random House Southeast Asia, available at a book retailers near you or through Amazon globally.
Wait, can I just get water muna?
Oh, take your time.
I'm with sisters Tweet and Tara Sering.
How long is our talk going to be?
I get bitin if it's like 30 minutes because it's not long enough to
You're the-
soundtrack my walk.
And no, we are not talking about walks or the length of podcasts. Like a K-drama, we'll keep going until the conversation has reached its rightful end.
Should I introduce myself now?
This one's not just for the fans of recent hit show K-Love, which the Serings sisters wrote, but for all the writers and dreamers out there.
My name is Tara Sering, and I am a writer. I do travel journalism, and then I do fiction much more before than now, although I'm getting back to it. And then now I'm also a screenwriter.
Hi, my name is Tweet Sering. I'm a writer. I'm a book author and also a screenwriter.
Parang we're still super tickled by that news.
It's a new thing to add to your resume, isn't it? I'm going to ask you guys to tell me all about that. But let's begin with the fact that you guys are sisters and you're both writers. Did you grow up in a house full of writers? Is it in your lineage? I mean,
So I wouldn't say like family of writers, but definitely both sides. My mom's family and my dad's family, they were all really big storytellers. Like a lot of the stories that we know of, like where we come from, etc. It's sort of like an oral tradition that happens every time they get together. Like there's a lot of storytelling going around. I think that's where it comes from, but maybe Tweet has other theories.
No, I agree. They love to tell stories and they were very good at it. When they told the stories, they stuck. The stories stuck in our head. So it became part of like the family myth. And then they told it in such a way that it became part of our story as well. So we'd forget, like we think it's our story, like we would refer to certain instances like it happened to us. You remember that time? What do you mean remember that time? It didn't happen to you. It happened to Lola Mama. Ay, oo nga, no? So my grandmother on our mom's side, okay, she was an English teacher in this small province of Surigao in Mindanao, Philippines. And she wrote a column for the local paper, Woman Sense. Yeah, she had a PhD, she had a master. She was really an educator, she and her sister. And we actually didn't realize this until later, no? Until later that we were surrounded by that. Like there were lots of books everywhere we went, and seeing her write was such just a fact of life, And
what did you think it gave you or brought to your growing up or to your childhood? This being surrounded by storytellers. And I love it. The fact that it is, in a sense, as you were saying, the oral tradition of passing down also the family myths, as it were.
And the myths of other families in the province.
Yeah, well, that's another a way of saying gossip.
Yeah.
Let's stick with
It's a
myths.
nicer way
Myths.
of
I
putting
like
it
that.
down. It's
Yes.
like
The
chismis.
myths of other families gossip, diba?
Oh, yeah.
Small town chisms, small
Right.
town gossip, chismis.
And they kept getting repeated, like every time, same stories all the time, because they were also really funny.
Yeah,
So-
parang they were legends. Parang they were these characters that we all knew, even if we never met them. So when we finally met them, they're like, "Oh, that's you," So because like our dad would keep repeating the stories, diba? Like, see, I'm not gonna name them. I'm not gonna name.
Here we go. Family myth number one. But when did you kind of decide that this is what you might want to do as a profession?
I'm not sure if it was even like a conscious decision. It just felt natural.
Yeah, there was no.
It wasn't like a big, I'm gonna be this. It just felt like this is what I know to do, and it didn't feel out of the ordinary because it was like you were swimming in it, you know. So it's like the fish not knowing that they're in water until they have to get out of the
And you,
water.
you're older, right, Tweet? So were you the first one to kind of go into it professionally?
I don't think so. I'm
No.
not sure. No, because I know I wrote my first book when I was 9. Remember that
Oh,
by Mystery of the Ringing Bells?
The Ringing Bells. It was a Nancy Drew knockoff fanfic.
Complete with the blonde girl on the cover.
Oh my
So,
gosh, yes.
yeah, I put it together and then I sent it. We were still in Surigao. I sent it to my dad in Manila and he was studying for the bar at that time, for the bar exams. I sent it to him and then I just said, can you have this published? It was as natural as that. I never thought it wouldn't be. It wasn't even in my, realm of consciousness that it wasn't going to happen. I just knew I was going to have a book. I just knew. Yeah, so fast forward like how many years first published book actually came out and
How old were
and
you then?
29 or 30. So to answer your question, no, I don't think I was the first one because Tara was taking creative writing classes. The babae, weren't you? And she was being published, I think.
Yeah.
College.
So for me, it was like this was all I wanted to do or all I knew how to do. Plus, I got encouragement along the way, like, oh yeah, you write well. So I was like, okay, great. The only question was how to make a living out of that. So that was the only challenge. Like, how do you make money
Right.
from writing? You don't. That was the first realization. So then you had to, well, I get that. I'll qualify that answer, but then you have to go into other things like other creative fields. So that's how I ended up in magazine publishing. But like I studied literature in university. I went on to take a master's in creative writing and I was writing short stories. So yes, like I was doing it professionally because I think I was getting paid 700 pesos
Wow.
for a story.
It is, honestly, I've got to say, it is criminal what writers get paid for the
Yes.
amount of effort and
Yeah.
experience
Yeah.
and knowledge that goes into what you are crafting.
Yeah, exactly. So, which is why now in the age of social media, I'm super rooting for those who are like building empires out of like doing their own promotion, getting into the
Right.
business side of it. But that's another thread that we can explore later.
Because how then did you guys move from it? You've talked about now, you've both started out writing books. Tara, you moved on to travel writing and being the editor for magazines. So it was still writing of a different nature that then could at least keep you salaried, I would
Yes.
presume, right?
Yeah.
And Tweet, you went into advertising.
Yeah, I went into advertising straight out of school, college. My training was broadcast communication, but I couldn't actually imagine myself working for network TV.
Mhm.
So I didn't know what I was going to do. And then my mom saw this ad for, copywriters, and she just wanted to get me out of the house.
Right.
So I applied, and then parang, this is so fun. I realized, I love this. I love doing this. So yeah, I thought I was going to stay there for a bit, but that was all of 3 years.
Okay.
And then that was my longest regular job.
All in
No,
all, how many books do you have out?
3.
3. And Tara, you have quite a few as well.
I think 4 or 5.
Are you sure, Bai? Parang more.
Sorry. No, so there's Reconnaissance, which is a book of short stories, and then Getting Better, which is a novella. Almost Married, which is a sequel, Between Dinner and the Morning After, which is like another book. And then Amazing Grace, which was published in Singapore by my gosh, I can't remember their name. Marshall Cavendish. So yeah, so 5. Yeah.
Was it?
No, there's another one, diba? One with Lil Bosse.
Oh yes, 6. So it's
wow.
there was a Choose Your Own Adventure book. I always forget that because it's sort of like a different genre. It's like YA.
Right.
And it was Choose Your Own.
Do you have favorite genres like to write in, huh?
I love YA. I don't do it very often, so I think I'm gonna go back to that because it really feels like play. So it's you're really But I mean, most things feel like play. Chick lit feels like play, which is another genre that I love. So we were writing a lot of chick lit.
A tweet for you?
I've not written as much as Tara, so I don't know if I have favorites, but the ones that I've written so far, one is chick lit, and then the other one is a memoir. And then I haven't written YA, although it's a favorite of mine to read. I love to read YA. Yeah, that's it. So I really
Personal essays. You do personal essays.
Yes.
What
Creative
has it meant
nonfiction.
for each of you to be able to write and share this with an audience, with a readership? Because it takes a certain kind of person as well to put all of this out there, to open yourself up to reviews and responses.
Honestly, I don't know any other way. It feels like it's what I was born to do. It feels like the most natural thing for me. I don't know. I really, it's the most fulfilling thing for me, actually. So if there are other stuff that come up, like of course the criticism, you people who don't like it, or some other family, members feel exposed, then I think it's just learning to be peaceful with that. Just finding a way to look at that as part of, for me, it's truth telling. Kasi. So if I don't do that, then I'm not telling the truth. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Tara, is it as deep for you?
It's a version of that. For me, not so much truth telling, but I think that's part of it for me. But it's a way to process things. I once told a friend, I don't know what people who travel do with all their trips if they don't write. Like, it's such a waste. And I was being a dick about that. But I just meant, like, sort of, what do you do with all those experiences if you don't write, I guess. But I'm sure there's a lot of other things you can do with it. But that was just a way of saying that for me, I don't know how to do all these experiences, I don't know what to do with them unless I write and then process.
That's such an interesting way. I've never verbalized it like that, but I absolutely get your point. I completely get your point.
I'm not poo-pooing other people who don't write. That's not what I mean. Right?
No, but it's also like for me, when I was out reporting, I still had to write separate to what I was already doing professionally. Like there was a live report, then there was the package report, and then I had to do the report that was going to go online. But on top of all of that, I also had a separate journal with just stuff that was, mine, I suppose.
And you had a lot to process because you were in very difficult situations, right? You were like a conflict reporter.
Yeah. So it's true. And it was almost like a therapy session by yourself, or it was a way to even just look at what you had just seen.
Yeah. How many
in a very different way. It's weird. I don't know. I even have things in scraps of paper. The kind where you just grab whatever you can and write down anything that might come to mind. I wish I'd organized it more, but I didn't. So that's kind of my failing now. And I'm trying to just gather all the notes that I can and organize them in a sense. Because it's almost like if I can't find the note, I don't remember it.
Yeah. And do you also find yourself sort of recasting something that's happening to you in the moment, but in the third person in your head, like while it's okay?
No, I'm thinking now. I'm like,
while it's happening to you. Say you're like in a weird situation in the supermarket, and then all of a sudden you're like narrating now what's happening.
You're already using it.
Yeah, the moment it's happening,
fictionalizing it.
I love how tweet summary of that is that you're losing it, and like
using it.
No, using
it. Okay. You're using it. Well,
my bad.
I mean, there must be something in it, right? Losing, using, same.
Yeah.
That's true, and it's a certain madness to become a writer, right? So I'm constantly told, and now I realize they're correct. How has it been a help or a hindrance for you guys to have a sibling who also writes?
For me, like there definitely was like something before, right? Because, and I don't know if this is true for every family, but in certain families, you can be one thing, and then the other person needs to be something else because somebody's already something. Like,
Yeah.
okay, somebody's already a writer, so like,
Yeah.
what are you
Go
gonna
for
be?
tips on a certain thing.
Yeah, and then you as kids, you don't really, or as younger people, you don't really know that many things are allowed, so you just go with it, and you're like, oh, okay, what else can I be? So like, I didn't want to go into advertising because Tweet was there, that kind of thing.
Right.
And so I had to find like somewhere else to go. But I did try and fail miserably.
Did you even want to get into advertising?
No, but it just looked like so much fun. Just like
Right.
she was traveling, they were going to Hong Kong, and I thought that's nice. And there are not many options for like a literature degree. Like, what do you do with a literature degree? But you can be many things, right? But yeah, so but it did cause some kind of like weirdness in the past, I would say, right?
Yeah. I
Right.
mean, for instance, like when I was naman in advertising, an art director came up to me and he said, "Tweet, are you really Sarah Sering?" I'm like, "What?" Because he was reading this literary magazine. I think it was The Graphic, or what was that other one? And then he
Free
read
press.
Free Press, and then he read a short story of Tara. So he thought there cannot be two writers, in a family. So Tweet must be Tara also. And then at one point, there was also I was invited to speak in fully booked. And then I was introduced as Tweet Tara.
Who would name their kids Pitara?
I know. So she was like reading this really impressive, CV. I'm like, wow, am I all that? It was Tara's and my
She merged them.
merged. And I'm like, how did I even have the time to do that? And then she said, I now present Tuitara Serino. There was like weird stuff like that.
But have you guys discussed your writing between you? Like, is that something you even broach or no?
Sometimes I have a harder time talking about my writing. Like,
Okay.
I have a harder time talking about what I've finished
Just in general.
in general. Yeah. And I sometimes don't read published stuff because like
Right.
that's done. Like, okay,
Yes.
I can't. And I will keep revising like while I read. So I'd rather not. But
Right.
we have discussed some of your screenplays.
Let's move on to that. Okay, so you guys were both writing, you had your day jobs or projects on the side, and then suddenly you made the leap from the printed word and moved to screen.
Oh my god! These are all my favorite shows. Oh my god!
I love K-drama.
Kimchi forever. So obsessed. Annyeong!
Was that something you both always wanted to do? And how did you even end up working together? Nightmare or a dream?
Both?
I have a funny story to sort of put a context into all of this. When we were kids, we wrote the screenwriter of Dead Poet Society, fan mail, like Tom Shulman. So we sent it to a tita in the States, and we were like, we don't know how you're gonna get it to him, but she was like, we're gonna try. And we kind of forgot about it, but it was like really a super fan letter because we were so in love with this movie. And she somehow got, or my tito or my tita, one of them, somehow got his address from this Writers Guild of Uncle Jeff. Address from the Writers Guild of America. And he got our letter. And then he sent us a copy of the script. And we're like, what? Like, what? Super amazing. So we have it. We still have it.
He signed it, I presume, right?
Yeah, we wrote him asking for the book. We said, is there like a book version of this? And then he said, oh, I'm sorry, but he said it's called a novelization when they turn a script into a book. But he said, I'm embarrassed to say that I haven't read it, so I cannot recommend it.
Okay.
But he said, so, while you're tracking down the book, in the meantime, here's the final draft
of the script. Super wild. Like,
We were screaming as if we won the Oscars that day.
Yeah.
Oh my
So there's
God.
always been, for me at least, some kind of curiosity and interest. Like, what does it take to make something like this? Although Tweet pursued it.
What did you guys do with that copy? I
Script.
presume it was one copy, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's there. It's at home. It's with you,
Okay.
Bai.
It's here with me.
It's there. Yeah. So we just
Wow.
look at it.
Every time I start to write a screenplay, I bring it out and I put it on the desk beside me. Honestly, I left advertising because I wanted to make films. I stumbled into the book writing. I did not intend, well, not consciously when I was an adult. Like, okay, I refer to Tara saying that you, like in a family, you feel like you can stay in your lane and there's just one lane. And I felt like she was like the literary person, you know, and I was like in advertising and media and, you know, whatever. And then because I wasn't going to like the writing workshops, the literary, I didn't have those mentors, right? So I didn't think that I was going to write a book. It was really films that I wanted to pursue. So I was writing films, I was writing short story, full-length scripts. And then it was because of that, I think, when Tara was editor of Summit Books, she wanted me to write a book. And I said, I don't know how to do that. And then she said, yes, you do. She was insisting that I could. And I said, no, I don't know. She said, you've written so many scripts. It's the same thing. It's long form. So only when she said that, I was like, shucks, sige. I'll just try to do that. But I wasn't, it wasn't books. It was always for me scripts. So I was more comfortable with the form than with books. So yeah, you want to take it from here? Bye.
So about this script, so now we're gonna jump to this script. So one day, Michelle Barreto, my friend, and mentor, but she doesn't know she's my mentor. I just trail her around. She calls and says, hey, I've got like a friend who is back in town and she's like working with you and looking for writers to do something, like write something with. And she said, like, can I give your names, you and Tweet? Because like she'd met Tweet before and knew that Tweet was writing scripts. So I was like, okay, sure. Like we weren't even sure what it was going to be. But then when we got on a call with Colleen Bistant Takahashi, she was the person from View. But when
Which
Michelle,
is a streaming service.
yes.
Right.
When Michelle first told me, she told me that Colleen had just left Marvel and then that she had just joined View. So it was like, wow, big deal. Let's go talk to her. And she wanted to work on a project. When she told us what her project was, they kind of freaked out a little bit because we had just gotten super into K-drama. Like me, much longer than Tweet. And that was the year like we were all like losing it over K-drama. So that's how it started. That was August or September 2021.
And the show is called K-Love, which is about, would you like to tell us what it's about?
It's about a group of Filipinos who are bonded because of their common love for K-drama.
In the world of K-drama, love conquers all is not an outdated cliche.
Like how it has, changed them. And it's really about K-dramas and K-culture. And they just go nuts about it, that it just changes their lives. So we're like, that's our story, diba? we can write that because that's us. It felt very natural, and it felt easy because we knew these people, these were our friends. These were the conversations that we were having with our friends, with each other. We were already analyzing why we love K-drama and why it's blowing our minds. So we had very deep discussions about this and like really frothing at the mouth because, of course we grew up with Hollywood, right? And we thought that just Hollywood is just the thing. Again, like this fish in water, you don't realize that there is a way of telling a story, and it's not the only way. Right, so it's not the only reality. K-drama was presenting us with this whole different perspective. It's like, oh my God. So it was like a really new thing. It was very exotic. I mean, it was something that I've never experienced before. So I just thought that there was this. I never questioned the way Hollywood made the movies or told their stories. And then when I saw this, and they repeated it in like various titles, it wasn't just one series. It was like several series, and they had the same effect on me. I was like, what's happening here? What's happening? So
When you vary your diet, like if you're used to one thing and then you sort of expand, then it's like mind-blowing, right? Like, oh my God, this new thing, and it's different. And for me, it's just that. It's like you've been doing this one thing, or like been living on this like one kind of entertainment diet. And then all of a sudden you're introduced to new flavor profiles, and you're like, what the hell is this? It's like set up.
How has it changed your craft then?
For me, I fell in love with K-drama. May halong therapy. So I think so, because I started during the pandemic, and then I watched this K-drama. My very first one was my gateway drug was Crash Landing on You, and I loved it because I was like, holy shit, this is so amazing. It was such a smart way of parsing out all the underlying like stories, and it's Crash Landing on You is borderline camp, but then it also tells you, without beating you on the head with it, about all of the anxieties between North and South, and in a really sort of tender and very, I guess, what is the way to put, loving way. And the production values, it's like, what? So I was trying to convince a friend to watch it. I was like, no, you have to watch this. And he said, for me, it was really like, gosh, this is the TV show that I deserve to see. I don't know. It's just really inspired me to put in more effort, like to put in the work. That's, I guess, how it's changing me craft-wise. Like I need to up my game.
Did you get Tweet involved in the whole K-drama world? Or did you discover that separate to Tara?
Okay, 2020 was when everybody was going nuts over Crash Landing on You. I had friends telling me, my cousin just like, you have to watch this. And I just wasn't there. I really wasn't there. But then 2021, when my siblings were all at home after when our dad passed away, and it was a way for us to bond, to do something together, to do something light. So Tara and another sister, Joff, our youngest sister, there are 5 of us. So there are 4 girls and 1 guy. And so Tara and Joff were telling me, it's time for Crash Landing on You. It's time for all of us to watch Crash Landing on You. So we all sat down. When I say all, it's just actually 4 sisters. So we sat down and we made a ritual of it, like a nightly ritual, watching 1 episode or 2 episodes of Crash Landing on You, depending on like how obsessed we were that time. So we did Crash Landing on You, and I loved it. It was really good. But that wasn't the thing that turned things around, for me. It was the second one. It was Startup, which Tara and Joff also said, oh, now you're ready for Startup. I'm like, what does that even mean?
There's a progression.
Okay, there's like a playlist. We're gonna start with this, and then and I'm like, oh yeah. It was Startup for me. I knew I wanted to write for film. So I was writing these full-length screenplays, right? And I never imagined I would want to write for TV. But when I watched this, I realized, shucks, I could write like this. This is what I want. It's somewhere in between. It's not like the Hollywood, TV series where it just goes on and on forever. Like, Grey's Anatomy. It's like, how many seasons?
It's Flor de Luna.
Or it's that mad, diba? Or
my entire childhood.
Or Flor de Luna, or a movie, like because when I love a movie, I don't want it to end, but it ends like after 2 hours, right? So I think it's why I keep going back and watching it over and over, because I want to stay in it. It's like reading a thick book, and it's not thick enough. So I'm like, I just want to stay in that world, so I keep. And then K-drama presented this format for me that was perfect, because you could really stay and get to know these characters and like not feel rushed. and it's 16 episodes and 20 episodes. So for me, it was perfect. I was like, oh my gosh, this is
Yeah,
it's not.
because you know it's gonna end.
Yes, that's the thing about it. It's like, you know that there is an ending. You know that they're not gonna do another season because ad infinitum. Parang you know that it's like a movie, it's gonna end, but it's not too short. It's not just 2 hours. You know, it's a satisfying buffet.
What do you think makes for you now when you look into what makes a story work? What would you say it is, Tara?
I think, yeah, for me, it really works when there's many layers of truth in it. Like, for example, and it's in the details that puts it into like a very specific context, but then there are many layers of truth. Like, and I don't know how to explain this. I don't quite have the vocabulary for cinema yet. But when I was watching this TV series called 2521, there's a scene where they don't, it's not even like, it sort of just happens in the background where they donate gold, like jewelry. Like all these Koreans were donating personal items made in gold to the government so that they could beef up their reserves. And this was during the Asian crisis. And it wasn't like
they owed something to the
the IMF or something like that, but it was during the Asian crisis, and this was like something that was happening in South Korea. But they didn't. It wasn't like the center. It wasn't the focus of the scene or the story, but it was just like something that got like dropped in there,
Right.
and then you knew. So that it really felt like it was so specific to South Korea, and it was such an enriching kind of thing. Like, oh my gosh, I know this culture a lot more for having seen
Right.
this series. So for me, I think I can't watch anything that's in a vacuum anymore, because there's so much like richness in the world. So I think otherwise it would have to be Neil Gaiman level world building kind of thing. But yeah, that's for me how, oh my God, I want to know all these things. So if you watch like all the other dramas, there's a lot of that.
Right. And when you say in a vacuum, it's more those shows, let's say, that are suspended in, could be anywhere, but it's nowhere.
Yeah,
Is that
could be
kind
any, yeah, like or like could be any, you're right, could be anywhere, but it's nowhere, or it's like cut and paste and you can like transposable. Like
Right.
I can't, yeah. So that's why I love Crash Landing on You so much. Like, where can you put that story? Nowhere. Just there.
It's funny though, no? Because there are a lot of shows now that are very international, but are very specific to where they come from. Because it's not just the Korean shows, you have the Nordic ones as well. And then you've got the Spanish series. And they're very specific to where they've come from. But then the stories somehow translate to a wider audience who are watching it really as outsiders and yet feel so close to what's going on in this series. But then at the same time, there was the success of shows that kind of hover in nowhere land, like the Virgin Rivers, where it's neither here nor there. It's like in this suspended world where everything is, in a forest somewhere with a beautiful lake. And it's supposed to be California, but looks nothing like it. And they never really mention California, that kind of thing.
I didn't even know it was California.
Right?
Yeah, they keep saying it's supposed
I
to
thought
be
it was like Oregon or something.
Los Angeles, like 45 minutes from Los Angeles.
Oh, I see. Yeah. I did enjoy the first season of Virgin River. So I think, yes, that has some appeal, but it's different for me. Like little details like that really stick out for me.
Right. Tweet?
Yes. It's really about context. Context for me is super important because that's when you feel the richness of the material. And I feel like maybe the writers or the director and whoever's involved in it went through a process as well of, for me, it's really transformative stories, transformational stories. Like for me, a good story is something that, like, when I'm exposed to it, I'm not the same at the end of it. So I came into watching Startup, expecting certain things, it's like, and then this is gonna happen, and then I realized, oh my God, they didn't do it that way. But that makes a lot of sense. So then I realized, oh wow, I really was trained in a certain kind of storytelling where subconsciously I expect certain things already, which is why I'm not super surprised anymore by most of the stuff that I've watched. It's like, yeah, I know this. A part of me knows it. But this one, I realized that I was really surprised. Like, I really didn't see many of the things, many of the plot points. I didn't expect them, so you kind of know, I think, I don't know, maybe because I was studying Hollywood films for such a long time, like really watching, and
Right.
you kind of know, like, before Jerry Maguire said, or Renee Zellweger said, you had me at hello. The split second before she said, you had me at hello, I knew. I was in the cinema, I said, you had me at hello. Because it was planted in the beginning, and then you kind of expect that. So those are the conventions already. And then after a while you can guess, I guess who Kaiser Soze was, and in The Usual Suspects. And then you think, now I'm a good writer because I know I see these things happening. But then you realize, wow, parang you're trained pala in a certain way. And so a lot of what I watched in K-drama, it was subverted. We know that you expect to go there because we all expect that this is, how the story is going, but not really. And they're not doing it just to be different. That's right. Yeah, it's more culturally correct.
So do you feel then what makes writing a living thing is really the fact that it should be subversive, that it should turn things on its head, that it should make people rethink maybe what they think they know?
I think it begins with the storytellers questioning what they think they know, or what they, just being aware of what it is that they believe, or what they think they know, because we take it for granted now. We take it for granted that things we say are true are not necessarily true anymore, or not, it was true for that era, or it's true in that culture, or it's true for this age, or it's true for this particular person or for this family, but not really. When you put that person somewhere else, that's not. So truth can be cultural, diba? It is cultural. And when you say cultural, parang it's not just even Filipino culture. It's like every family has a culture. And you don't question that. You don't question that, oh, you have to meet at a certain time, or you always have a reunion every time somebody has a birthday, or you don't ever question any more of those things. Everybody has to be here, everybody. And then if you don't do that, you're not a good daughter or whatever. I don't know if I'm making sense.
No, I got that. Did you want to add anything, Tara? No.
No.
After
Yes to all.
because in a sense, okay,
Agree.
so you're writing a Filipino story with K-drama sensibilities. What's next then for you guys? Do you want to continue doing this type of story? Do you feel writers, and clearly from your professional careers, it shows that this is not the case, but should writers kind of find what works for them and stick to one genre, or keep challenging themselves and exploring other things?
For me, it's essential to not feel like you need to do one thing, because then doing other things will enrich all the other things that you do. So I think it's way more fun to do things sideways, but also take time to dig deep and barrel down into something. But I don't think, or you should feel the need to stick to one, right? I mean, you're kind of doing like a larger leap from fiction to nonfiction, right? From news to fiction.
Oh, me?
Yeah. Or
Depends
is
who you
there a
ask.
leap?
I don't know.
Charot.
It depends who you ask, because people now are basically saying news is fiction. So, but
Exactly.
no,
but yeah, to answer your question, no, I don't think writers should stick to one thing. And I think,
are you guys
Just
planning
like-
to do another series, another TV series, and keep working together? Has that been beneficial for you guys? Have you enjoyed that experience?
I did. It wasn't without its challenges, but yeah. What do you think, Mai?
We're actually in the process of figuring out how we're going to do this, or what we want to do together or separately.
How has it worked then, working together? Like, did you guys divide the scripts or divide the episodes? And then what was the communication like between you while you were writing? Like, did you feel the need to constantly go, hey, I'm gonna use this here, okay? So what are you going to be, putting in yours? Or how did that work out?
Okay, so there's this story. I'll tell the story. When we were kids, we used to play bayay-bayay. Okay, bayay-bayay is a Surigao term for, literally, it means house, but you're playing house. We're not house. So bayay-bayay, Surigao. And what we did was, we were like the gods of this small universe, where we had all these bottles, cologne, Johnson's baby powder bottles, like a Jergens lotion bottle. And then we would make cutouts of their clothes. We would make clothes out of paper,
Okay.
And then we would build like their houses and their communities and all. So Tara had her stable of characters, and I had my stable of characters. So we would be playing side by side, like in the same area, but I had my community here and she had her community there. So but our characters would be entangled in one another's lives, so like the Johnsons, of course, there were universal rules. Like the Johnson's baby powder was the male, the virile male. And then the Johnson's cologne, they were like shapely bottles. They were the women. So there were blue, brown, and green. And
those were their names.
Brown and green.
Yeah.
Those were their actual names.
And so a reference at that time was all these American soap operas that my grandmother was watching: Falcon Crest, Dynasty, Dallas, of course, right?
Yeah.
So it was sensational like that. So those were our sensational stories. So it'd be like, there has to be a mistress. There has to be an other woman.
Jergens was the mistress.
Jergens, yeah. Because she had like these flared hips. Yeah. So she had these flared hips. Na parang, yeah. She the hoe. So we would be...
She was yet.
So we would be like, hey, do you want them to get married? Do you want my Blue and your Johnsons to get married? Yeah, sige. So we knew how to play with each other. So that when this happened, we were like, okay, so how do we do this? How do we write together? And then I said, wait, remember that time when we were playing this? Let's just do bayay-bayay, because I have my characters and she has her characters. Because what we did was, we gave Corinne, the series creator, 2 options. So that so there's option 1 and option 2. There were these 2 different characters, but then they chose characters from me and characters from Tara. So we're like, oh my God, how do we do this? Diba? So, and that's when it came up. We were like, wow, we did this before when we were kids. We played bayay-bayay. So this is just the grown-up bayay-bayay.
So it's like you each submitted a different pitch for what the series was going to be.
Yes. Yes.
But the concept was Colin's.
Right.
She had a concept of what she had the notion. I mean, she already had the concept of like a group of friends that are brought together by K-drama.
And you guys hadn't discussed it between the 2 of you before submitting your own pitches for it?
No, first we tried to brainstorm and it didn't work. We were stressed because, of course, like, why, I had a different story in mind and she had a different story in mind. So we said, okay, then let's just submit the story, both of our stories, so that we both feel heard. Right. But we won't say this is from T, this is from Tara. We just call it option 1 and option 2.
Right.
And whatever it is that she chooses, that's what we're going to work on. So we thought we were clear. We were in the clear. But no. He said, I love this, blah, blah, blah. Oh, Frankenstein.
Right.
I love this part. I love this part here. And I love these characters. And the characters are not, oh, wow, from option 1 and from option 2. So we said, okay, how are we going to put these 2 things together? And that was bayay-bayay became the solution. Yeah.
But we also had a lot of help from other people in the writer's room. So basically the entire series was plotted out. So there was no like, okay, what's gonna happen in this episode or what? Like we had all plotted 7-hour Zooms.
Yes.
OMG. So then we parted. That's when we like parted ways, and then okay, you write your episodes and then I'll write certain episodes. But then there were two other people who would or three other people who would look at it, and then there's Colleen who would then edit.
Right.
So it was a very interesting exercise, I felt like, in
Much less solitary than writing a book, isn't it?
yeah.
Did you enjoy that part of it?
The relay part was
Yeah.
nice. Yeah.
Yes.
Rather than just a marathon, like the whole way by yourself and your thoughts, you could get a break because it was like your turn. And then you could like take a breather and then, so yeah. So the relay element was, I thought was really fun.
Yeah. And it became easier, actually. It became a lot easier when we got over the initial hurdles, because there was a lot of shorthand and we didn't have to dance around each other anymore and try to figure out, what works for you or what works for me.
Right.
And then we could refer to, because we have shared history, like super long shared history, right? So I could just say, remember that
long. You're so young.
remember that person, and then parang, yeah, ganyan. He's this, and then this character is malang like that. Yeah. So it was easy.
The sister shorthand super helped.
Definitely. I think it would have been a lot harder if there wasn't that. Yeah.
So what can we expect from you guys next?
I think at the moment, there are no concrete plans to do anything together, because I think we've also done many things. We've pursued careers in writing very separately, except for a few times, like for Wonder Girl, for example, like Tweet's book, like I was like editing the book, and that was like one collaboration, and then this one. So, but I think, I don't know, like I think Tweet has projects coming up, and like I have my own as well. So I think, I don't know, we'll see.
No, it's really up
Stay
there.
tuned. Watch this space. Shut up.
What would you say to young people who want to get into writing? Would you have any words of advice, considering you both now have long careers with words as wordsmiths?
With words. Trust your desires. That's what's coming up. Just the desire to do something, or the desire to write a particular story, or it's super valid. It became clear with K-Love. I wanted to write a K-drama, and then here it is. I didn't know how I was gonna go about it, but I just had the desire. I said, I want to write something like this. And then I did go around looking for it, landed on my lap. So yeah.
Do you worry about the audience when you're writing?
Yes, sometimes it comes up, and that's the work. The work is trying to, transform that into, okay, it's not about that. Because if you go down that rabbit hole, it's hard. So I needed to keep bringing myself back to, if it works for me, if I find this funny, if I cry over the scene, if I'm crying in the scene, or if I'm laughing in the scene, then that's it. I cannot anticipate how anyone else is gonna react to my work. That's gonna be really, really hard if you go do that. So no, you just have to trust that if you're entertained by what you're writing, or if it's teaching you something, then it will have the same effect on someone other than you. Yeah.
Tara?
I'd say just play. And this is coming from the fact that I have a literary background, and I thought like everything I needed to produce had to be sort of serious.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the more you play, and just, even if it's a serious thing you want to write, then just, come at it from a play perspective, then you'll be fine.
Who was that? Who was the person who said serious art is serious play?
But that also goes through the way you live life, right? To not take it too seriously.
Oh,
You lose the sense of joy.
Yeah. And we lost our dad last year, and he was somebody who really knew how to have a sense of play in life. And so I think that just accelerated sort of my desire to just like do more of this and just play, because what else is there to do?
Let the blessings in. Not just for happy endings, but also for new beginnings.
I hope you enjoyed this longer than usual episode of About That with the Serings sisters. As always, thank you for your time and support, and for joining me on this exploration of storytelling.